when you feed a chicken, obviously you need fiber, energy, protein, just like every human macronutrient. And traditional is soy as the protein source?
So the major protein source in poultry rations would be soybean meal. Yeah. And in Western Canada, the major grain would be wheat.
So you, in these feeding trials, are trying to change things.
So what we're trying to do in this trial is we're trying to see whether Faba bean is a feasible way that we can reduce the reliance on soybean meal. And it's not necessarily that, an aversion to soybean meal, but if you're dealing with both an international price, a commodity price for soybean meal that is going all over the place, and we are having to import it, but on top of that, you've also got the US dollar exchange rate. How can we manage those costs for producers? Because it's a supply managed system, you have to deliver a certain number of kilograms to the plant. And there's a price that you get paid for those certain number of kilograms. So your key to profitability is managing your feed costs and your other costs as well. So what we're looking at is, can Faba bean be part of the solution to that? One of the side questions we're looking at is not only is it feasible, from a nutritional standpoint, but can we actually use it as well to achieve certain goals in our feeding program, right? So one of those can be, for example, Faba beans are a very low input crop. There's a lot of talk right now about paths to net zero in agriculture. We were able to achieve in our laying hen experiment, at least some of our preliminary data, about a 25% reduction in the feed-associated greenhouse gas footprint of the egg.
So is this becoming actually like more common conversation and something that the egg farmers, chicken farmers
I don't
are talking about, or is it more like the processing side that's saying we need to reduce?
No, this is the producers that are talking about this. So this is being led by the producers.
Cool. Even just from a pulse perspective, when we're thinking about on-farm footprinting, our approach, and it sounds like the same thing with the chicken people, is we need to have that answer before we're asked the question.
100%.
Right? So this is like so empowering. So what led you to Faba?
Well, we worked with Faba a little bit when I was with Alberta Agriculture, and I just frankly found it fascinating and was curious as to, well, why aren't we using this more? And there's anecdotal accounts out there of there's farms that have access to a neighbor's Faba bean, and it's like, oh, well, let's try this. And they've had success. And so, anecdotal evidence takes you so far, but at some point you have to ask the question from a more empirical standpoint and saying, well, how much of that anecdotal evidence is actually backed up by hard data? And so that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to see how far can you push it. And so we have treatments in this experiment where we've completely taken the soybean meal out of the ration, and we're looking at Faba bean concentrations in the diet of 48%. In nutrition, we don't really care about protein per se, we care about the individual balance of amino acids.
Okay.
And so Faba, it has a really nice balance. It works really well if you have a complementary protein like canola meal, which is another ingredient that we work a lot with as well. And they complement each other very nicely. I've looked at the specs for this strain of bird. That's right on target.
Which means Faba works.
Faba works?
Faba works!
No.
Faba, you work.